Okay, last lecture we discussed testing of induction motors, and we covered certain tests like resistance measurement and also the blocked rotor test. Today we will discuss the remaining portion of testing of induction motors, and then we will take up a new chapter on speed control of induction motors today. Okay. So these are the two topics that we will discuss in today's lecture. Now the other thing test is blocked rotor test is also a zero power output test, because you are maintaining the speed 0 but torque is there. So that is also zero output power. Today we will have another zero output power, which you call it a no load test, in which case you are maintaining the torque 0 at the output but speed is there. Okay. So that is the other test that we conduct on the motor to determine its parameters and certain losses, etc. That we will see today. So what we do is, that means you run the motor on no load, don't connect any load to the motor, then and monitor the current and power at different voltages. So here you do it at different voltages, unlike in a blocked rotor where you do it different currents. Up to what voltage you can go? You can go till a little above the rated value. If it is rated at 415 volts, you can go to say 440, 450 like that. So a little more you can go. So the circuit diagram that you will use will be typically as follows. You have the motor, and you have the instrumentation, the voltmeter, ammeter, wattmeters, to measure the voltage, current and power, and you connect to the supply through a variac or auto transformer, because the auto transformer facilitates you to vary the voltage across the motor. Okay. And on the shaft side, don't connect anything. It should be no load. That's why it's called a no load, means there is a speed is there, no load speed, but there is no torque. Okay. So this is the circuit diagram that is used on a no load test. Okay. Now we will see under no load condition what will be the equivalent circuit. Okay. So under no load, generally the current is small. The no load current is small compared to its full load current, maybe 20%, 30%. When the current is small, generally you can even ignore the drop in the series impedances, and also that means the constraint is you have a low current and low copper loss. So copper loss is generally negligible. Okay. And it will be operating on low slip, because on no load the slip is very low. It could be ideally 0, but because of friction windage there could be a little slip will be there. So you can neglect the rotor current, because slip is 0 means rotor RR by S is infinity. RR by S is infinity, therefore rotor current you can neglect, that is 0. So your circuit will be typically looks like this. Your equivalent circuit under no load will be, you only maintain the stator impedance RS, JXLS, and rotor you neglect, because rotor current is 0, only you maintain the magnetizing branch and the core loss branch. And so the voltage per phase is V0, current per phase will be I0, and the power per phase you can say is P0, is the power per phase. So these are the things which you are measuring, voltage, current and power. But often you may make one more approximation as a next step, that you neglect the drop across the stator impedance, because the I0 is small. I0 is small, therefore compared to 415 volt there may be a small drop, so you can neglect that as a first approximation. So if you do that, there is an approximate equivalent circuit. That is, this Vg, which is supposed to be the air gap voltage, which should be less than V0, you say it is same as V0. Vg is taken to be same as V0, because stator impedance drop is ignored. Okay. So this will be another simplification of the equivalent circuit. So this will be the equivalent circuit under no load condition, V0, I0 and P0. Okay. And you would expect that power mostly will be going by the for the core loss. Under no load condition, you can neglect electrical power is consumed for the core loss. Okay. Now next we want to know what are the calculations that we do from no load test. You have taken the reading, you have taken measured P naught so many watts, you measured V naught so many volts, and you have measured I naught so many amps, that you have measured per phase. So we are starting per phase, because whatever measurement you take may be line, but you have to convert into per phase depending upon the type of connection that is made. Okay. So V naught, I naught, P naught are voltage, current, power per phase under no load condition. Okay, that measurement you have taken. Next, if you look at that equivalent circuit, the VG air gap voltage will be whatever terminal voltage V naught minus the stator impedance drop RS plus JX into I naught, isn't it? So that is a very standard this thing. So you have a VG, that is air gap voltage, here will be V naught minus this drop here. Okay. Now that is air gap voltage you have calculated, because you know V naught, you know I naught, because I naught must, these are all vector. These are not scalar, okay, because these are all complex numbers. Next, having calculated VG, what is the power, that is PC, you can take it to be equal to whatever is the input power P naught minus I naught square RS. Okay, because we are at this stage we are neglecting friction windage. Even that will also be there. We are neglecting friction windage. So the core loss will be whatever measure wattmeter reading minus the I square R loss in the stator. Okay. Now you know what is PC. In the motor, whatever is the core loss you know. So you can measure the resistance representing the core loss will be V naught square by PC. That will be the resistance. You have found out now one parameter RC, which is V naught square by PC, and then IC will be naturally V naught VG by RC. IC will be VG by RC. So you have seen, if you look at this is VG and this is IC, so this will be the quantity that you will calculate. So you know what is the current I naught, you know what is IC, then you can calculate IM. That will be the difference in vectorial terms. So IM will be square root of I naught square minus IC square, because they are at quadrature. Okay, IM is I naught square minus IC square, and then XM will be VG by IM. So that will be the magnetizing reactance. That is, if you again go back to this circuit, if this is VG, you know IM, so XM will be VG by IM. So you have found out from these readings what is IC, IM, RC, XM, okay, and VG. Okay. So of course there is one small error. This will be RC is VG square by PC. Right? Please note RC VG square PC and IC is equal to VG by RC. So, but if you neglect this drop, if you make a first approximation, then it will be VG equal to V naught. So then same thing. Instead of VG you can have V naught and do the calculation, and because by neglecting the stator impedance. So you know, after determining the currents and voltages and power on no load per phase, you can calculate the core loss, you can calculate the magnetizing reactance, you can calculate the magnetizing current, you can calculate the core loss current, you can calculate the core loss resistance. So all these parameters you are able to quickly determine. Okay. And next you can use the same values to draw a phasor diagram under no load. You can draw a phasor diagram under no load. If this is VG reference, so IM will be quadrature lagging and IC will be in phase. Okay, VG IC is the core loss and IM is the reactive component or for magnetizing current, and the sum of these two will be I naught. This will be the total current I naught, which will be lagging Vg by this thing. So, if you neglect the stator impedance, Vg equal to V naught, right, if you neglect the stator impedance. So, this angle between Vg and I naught is the no load power factor angle. But if you want to include the stator impedance, for Vg you have to add the stator impedance. That means you have IR, you can add that IR here and you can add that IX here, stator impedance, and you will have the Vs R, which is equal to V naught, stator voltage or the V naught. So, you know V naught and you know I naught, and the angle between them is the no load power factor angle, that is phi naught. Phi naught is the power factor of the motor under no load condition, which will again be sufficiently lagging. So, you have done all these calculations, you can tabulate the results. So, this is the typical tabulation you can use. Because what you are measuring is V naught, I naught, P naught, you are measuring, because V naught we are varying from a small value to slightly above the rated value. Okay. Then I naught you again monitor, P naught you can monitor. So, these three are the measured readings. From the test, these are the measured readings, okay, measured. But then you do the calculations. So, you will have to calculate Vg, next you calculate Rc, next you calculate Ic, next you calculate Im, next you calculate Xm. In fact, you can develop a small computer program if you want to do all these things, and then it can just print out the results. So, you have a variation for different voltages, all these quantities. Okay. Now, having determined that, you can plot them. Next will be to, from these results you can plot it. Now, you need to plot these results you are interested to know what is the magnetization characteristics of the motor, because the magnetizing reactance is not necessarily constant, depends upon the operating air gap flux, which depends upon the voltage, and you are interested to find out what is the variation of magnetizing reactance, because our whole concern is that they are not really constant. So, it will depend upon the operating voltage and the operating flux. So, what you will plot is the air gap voltage versus Im, you can plot, and which is not linear. It will linear initially, but it will go like this. Okay. What is the ratio of Vg by M? Is Xm. Therefore, that Xm is constant up to here, say. Okay. Then here it will be, so this will be the Xm, this is your Vg. Okay. Because you can also plot Vg and Xm also. You can plot Vg and Xm, because these are also very important characteristics. Okay. Now, at low value of Vg, you will have a constant Xm, and then again comes down like that. So, this is the variation of Vg versus Xm. So, these are important characteristics that you will experimentally obtain from the no load test. Now, let us compare the two tests. We have got the block rotor test and no load test. Okay. Now, these two tests, we get some interesting observations. As far as the voltage is concerned, in block rotor test you apply less voltage, lower voltage, and in low load test you apply the rated voltage. That is, this is the, as far as voltage is concerned. Then as far as current is concerned, and block rotor test you apply the rated current, and in no load test the current is less. That is the difference that you find. Then as far as flux, operating flux, block rotor test operating flux is less. It is less flux in the, because you are applying a less voltage, okay. But the under no load test, the operating flux is the rated value. You are applying full voltage, okay, at nominal. Both frequency is same in both cases. Then copper loss. Copper loss is in block rotor test, it is the full copper loss will be there. In no load test, copper loss is small or negligible copper loss. And core loss, in block rotor test, core loss is small because you are operating less flux. Flux is less, therefore core loss is small. But no load test, the core loss is the rated or the full value or operating. So these are the of course friction windage. There will be some small friction windage on no load, but there is no friction windage on block rotor because you are blocking the rotor, right. Now one of the corollary of the no load test is you can also find the friction windage from no load test, because when you are conducting no load, it will run less than the synchronous speed because of friction windage, okay. So this is what you will do. You plot no load power minus stator copper loss, okay. No load power minus stator copper loss will be what? Core loss plus friction windage, right. And that you plot versus voltage or versus voltage square. So if you plot that, it will be something like that. This is the PC plus friction windage. That is P versus voltage. Okay. And if you extrapolate it to 0 voltage, you got the result experimentally for different voltage, extrapolate to 0. What will it give you here? What will this, because this is PC plus friction windage, what you have measured. So at 0 voltage you expect core loss to be 0. So this will be the friction windage. So this way you can calculate the friction windage loss, and remaining will be the core loss at corresponding voltage, okay. Of course, say the more convenient way also is if you plot P by V square and if it is like this will be linear. P by V square will be linear because the PC is linear, is proportional to V square. So here it is easy to extrapolate. So this will be the friction windage, and this will be the PC. This is versus V square, because PC versus V square is linear. PC is proportional to V square, or a K time V square. So this is one of the prescribed test methods to find out friction windage, okay. Now there are also other methods to measure, you may be interested to know, because that is a very critical issue, friction windage loss in a, how do you determine that, how many watts it is. Badly designed, badly manufactured motor will have higher friction windage, you will require sufficient voltage to start. Therefore, one of the method is you couple that motor to a calibrated DC machine. Calibrated DC machine is that for which your K5 versus IF is known, right. So that is called a calibrated DC machine, and then measure input power to DC motor. That means you run it from a DC motor, okay, at different speeds, right. Now you couple it, and then you decouple it. Now whenever there is a whenever you measure the power, total power with and without coupling, what will be the difference? Difference, because your induction machine is not excited, so it doesn't have any core loss at all or no loss. So the difference will give you the friction windage. That means whatever the power that the DC motor takes with and without the coupled machine will give you the friction windage. So measure the input power to DC motor with and without induction motor. The difference in power gives you the friction windage. This is one another way of calculating the friction windage losses. Okay. Because many times what happens is there is a design data, but then actual testing you will have to compare how much it is the difference. Okay. There is another method of finding friction windage. The third method is drive the induction motor at different speed by a DC motor. Drive it by another DC motor with fixed field current. Right? You are maintained the field current constant for the DC motor. Now the DC motor torque is proportional to field current into armature current, isn't it? Therefore, armature current is proportional to friction torque at that speed. Therefore, the T friction will be proportional to armature current of DC motor, because you know the torque is proportional to K phi into IA, and you know K phi because you are told that you know K phi versus IF. Let us say it is known. That means for that IF you are maintaining IF constant, so K phi is constant, right? So you with another DC machine you can do all these things. So you will have an information about friction windage at different speeds, because you are able to run the motor at different speed by maintaining the field current of the field of the DC motor constant. Okay. Now another test can do is what is a synchronous speed test. See, in the no load test we assumed that the slip is 0. Okay, the next test that we will be discussing is what is a synchronous speed test. That means you have the induction motor which is coupled to another motor, let us say M1 and M2. Now this M2 could be a DC motor or a synchronous motor. The second motor could be a DC or synchronous motor, means you are exactly running at NS. That means normally you use a stroboscope or something so that you are ensure that it is exactly a stationary against a strobo. So when NS is N equal to NS, that means slip is you are definitely equal to 0. Therefore when slip is 0, rotor current is 0. That means the friction windage is now supplied by the drive motor, right? And only this machine will only give you the PC, which is corrected. That means it is run by the supply, 3-phase supply. It will be induction motor and the DC motor if you are using. So this will give you the friction windage loss. So this is one another test that you will have, which you are sure that the measurement of no load test is accurate. So there will be a difference between the no load test and synchronous speed test, because you have made an approximation in no load test that friction windage was negligible. But here you are surely friction windage is not there. Okay. This is one of the tests that is generally done. Drive the induction motor at synchronous speed using another DC asynchronous motor. Okay. Then you measure the impedance at different voltage, as you did in no load test. You measure the impedance at a different voltage, and then same as no load test, but rotor circuit is actually open here. So this is one of the tests that are conducted as an accurate method of measuring the core loss. Okay. Now till now we have discussed all 0 power outputs, but in actual practice you would like to know. So from this we have been able to identify all the parameters. we could see what is the copper loss, we should see what we could see what is the core loss, we could see what is friction windage loss, we could see what is the rotor copper loss. We could also see all the equivalent circuit parameters: stator resistance, rotor leakage, magnetizing current, magnetizing reactance, core loss current, core loss resistance. So all the parameters we have determined now from these 2 tests or 3 tests, you can say. Now we would like to verify what will happen if you directly load the motor. That is one of the procedure which are said. You want to see how will it behave under load. So you couple the motor to one way, either a DC generator or what is known as dynamometer. Dynamometers, there are different types. Dynamometers are loading devices. One is called eddy current dynamometer. Eddy current dynamometer is that you pass a current through a coil in the stator, and rotor is made of eddy current materials. So the higher the stator current, the more will be the eddy current. So there will be opposing braking torque will be more. Therefore, these are called. Your whole purpose is to load the motor, or you can have other direct loading systems. Even you can have a spring balance, and then you have a pulley and you can load it. These are the way you can load. You know that any rotating part you can load it even by holding your hand, which if your hand can withstand. Okay, so that is any opposing friction or braking torque you must give on the shaft. Say a DC generator loaded will all these things will give that opposing load torque. Basically you are applying a load torque. So and then you do measure input and output quantities at different loads. So a different loading condition, different load torques you would measure. This is called the direct load test. Okay. So now from this load test you plot various quantities, right. So as I told you, the circuit that you will use for a load test will be, you have the motor, and of course you have the supply, but you have a loading system here. Now the torque is also not 0, speed is also not 0. This is the condition here. Now this loading system, as I say, is a DC generator or a dynamometer or a direct mechanical load, right. Now you measure the power input here from this side, coming from the supply, from the shaft. But shaft you can do, what measurements you can do here at the shaft? What is it you can measure? Speed you can measure. So many times, you know, you have to have here you can measure speed, or if you have a sophisticated transducer you can also measure torque. This torque is done through a torque transducer, right. It is a electronic device. So all these things can be taken to a monitor which monitors speed and torque. This is called but speed and torque is monitored in terms of voltages, but it is calibrated in terms of speed in RPM and torque in Newton meters. So they are also commercially available. So after loading you can do this. Otherwise, if you have a DC generator, then again you can calibrate it. If it is a calibrated DC generator, again torque would be equal proportional to, if it is a DC generator, the load torque will be proportional to IA, isn't it? Because you are loading as a generator, you are loading it by a load, the electrical load. So the current that it will take, if you maintain the field constant, and if you have K phi, you know IF here. So you will again have K phi versus phi IF, this curve you know. Therefore you can say you can take a calibrated DC machine as a generator, which means you can determine the torque in Newton meters for the given current that is flowing in the armature, right. So these are the methods of loading of DC motor. Okay. Now let us assume that you have done this test and you have taken the reading, you have taken the input reading, output reading. So you can do various calculations. What calculations you would like to know? You plot all these things. You plot at varying output. That means your output is varying because you are loading it. Okay, output power. So this is, you are varying the output power. Vary the output power from no load to full load At no load it is nearly synchronous speed, and at full load it will having some less than this one, and you plot torque versus output power, speed, efficiency, input power, input current, power factor, slip and reactive power. These are the quantities you are interested to know as you vary the load, right. So, with different these quantities, so you plot, this is the load characteristics. This is what you call from no load 0 power to let us say 100% power. This is power output. This is 100%. Let us say you are testing a 3.7 kilowatt machine, this will be 0, this will be 3.7 kilowatt. Okay. Then you know various quantities, speed would drop, that you know, right, and you know the slip would increase, because speed drop means slip would increase, and you would expect the current to go up, because at 100%, this is a full load condition, you know the current would go up, right, and your efficiency may also follow certain figures. This may be efficiency, right, and then there will be some reactive power and some variation of maybe some power factor. Power factor may be poor at low load, maybe, and it will be improved power factor. So, all these quantities you can plot, right. So, several of these as mentioned earlier, you can plot these quantities, that will be your torque, efficiency, input current, slip, speed, input power, power factor and VAR. Okay. Even torque also you can plot, that will also be increasing somewhere here, maybe some torque, right. So, these are called the load characteristics. That means as you load the machine, the different quantities, input or quantities will vary. That is of your concern in its normal operation. Okay. So, this is the how you calculate, you get the characteristics of the machine. Now, the next question is, nowadays everybody talks about efficiency, because as we said 70% of electricity in the world is consumed by induction motors. Therefore, how efficiently it is used is a matter of concern. Okay. Now, there is a there are IEEE standards, okay, which says how you can calculate the efficiency. Okay. Now, those standards was a published, latest was in 1991. I think it is 112 or something. Okay. Maybe we have to check. There is IEEE standard. One they say is direct measurement. So, you directly load it. Okay, that is one method to measure. Second is loss separation method. Loss separation is you measure the input power. Then before that you should know what are the losses, and measure, you know the current, so you can calculate what is stator copper loss. Okay. So, input power minus stator copper loss, then you again subtract core loss. What you now get is the air gap power. Okay. Then from multiply air gap power with slip, then rotor copper loss, then again subtract that. So, 1 minus S into Pg will give you the output power. You know friction windage, again subtract that, and then you get the power output. Okay. Now, and this is one of the way in which you can calculate the efficiency. This is called second called the loss separation method. But for that you need to have an accurate, one critical issue is you must know accurately what is the slip. Measurement of slip is the most difficult thing in a induction motor for two reasons. What is the slip? Slip is the difference between two speeds. One is synchronous speed, another is actual speed. So, difference between two big quantities, 1500 minus 1480, errors are big, because difference between two big quantities there will be lot of error. Even if a 5% error in any one measurement will give rise to much larger errors in the slip. So, this is one of the measurements you will face this problem. The slip measurement is a problem. So, that means another quantity is you are not sure about the frequency. supply frequency may vary. For 50 it may become 51 or 49, then again your measurements are wrong. So in actual measurements you will face this problem. Okay. So these are the one of the issues you must be concerned with. And the third method is called equivalent circuit method. If you know the equivalent circuit parameters, then also you can calculate the efficiency at different loads. That is a theoretical way. So these three methods, so you can plot efficiency versus load by all the methods and see what is the difference. Okay. Now one more thing in actual practice, especially if you are talking about megawatts of motors, the critical issue is about stray load loss, which is not accounted for. So you will often find that output power that you get is less than what you would expect, right. You know, for a given input you expect certain output by loss separation, but you are not getting. So this has to be accounted for. Of course, the one thing that they take is they take it to be 0.05% of the output, right. So this is one of the assumptions, because there has been a lot of discussion in international conferences on how to get stray load losses, because that is because in under loading conditions the magnetic fields will change, and the stray load loss is a matter of practical concern. Okay. Next is if you want to, all these tests will only allow you to determine the characteristics in the stable operating region, isn't it? And can you go to unstable operating region at least to measure some of these things, make it stable? Now for that, one of the procedure we follow is, let us say you take an identical machines. This is induction machine, I call it as machine 1. You couple to another DC motor. Let us say machine 2, and of course it will have its own field, let us say IF2, and you take another identical set more or less. This another induction motor, let us say machine 4 coupled to another DC machine, and its field winding. So this is, I will say 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Of course this is supply, this is connected to a again 3-phase supply with a variac, and this goes to another 3-phase supply. Okay. I kept a switch here. Now you run the you run this machine and run this machine, okay, and adjust the field current IF2, IF3 so that the voltage or VDC is same on both sides, both in polarity and magnitude. You adjust this. You are run this machine, run this machine. That means this is the both of them are running as a generator. Okay. When both are voltage is same, then you close the switch. So VDC is there. What will be that condition? What will be the current then in this? Current would be 0. So the current would be 0, and these two supplies will only be supplying certain no load losses, right. So these machines are neither motoring or generating, they are floating with this. Okay. Now what you do is, you want to run this as a motor, right. Now it is under floating condition, you want to run this as a motor. If this becomes a motor, what will be this? This will become generator, and this will become motor, this will become generator. So I would like to have a power flow like this. No, sorry, power flow like this. Electrical power flow, it should take some power from here, run this as a motor, then generator, this will be a motor, this will be generator. So it will take some power, ideally all this power should go here, right. So this will be a motor, this will be generator, and this will be motor, this will be generator, and this will be induction generator. Okay. Now this is you can conduct this test. For that, what you should do, in order to make this as a generator, and that means this will be the current will be going out like this, IDC. When will the current go? When this voltage is less. Therefore, what will you do? How will you do it? IF3 you make less. You under excite this field. When you under excite this, it will ensure that the current will start flowing from here. This works as generator, and then it works, so power flow will be like this. So you can get, you can go up throughout. You can by this arrangement, you can go to the whole different speeds. Okay. If you want to go the other way around, what will you do? Supposing I want to run this as a motor generator, motor generator. So you just keep it this value, you under excite IF2. Okay. So this is a very practical, interesting way where you can get the complete torque speed characteristics, because what is torque? Torque is proportional to IA. This, supposing this is IDC, this torque will, because for if you maintain the field constant, so torque will be proportional to that. So this is one way. 2 induction machine sets are required, and you can get, so you can get the torque speed characteristics of both the machines in both motoring and generating. So what you will have is, because the you can go up to here, and then you can also go in the other range. This is motoring, and this will be generating, and this will be the torque which is measured as a proportional to IDC. But you will also have to, because this is the external torque, but internal torque will be, you may, because you must also add to that the T friction. T friction you have measured separately. In fact, this will be actually the T internally developed will be whatever T output plus T friction. So you must take this into account, and this will be the ideal characteristics. Okay. So this is the way you find out the torque speed characteristics. So that means to sum up, controlling the field currents of DC machines, power flow can be directed. One induction machine acting as motor and the other as generator. Okay. Then armature current at different speed gives the torque. Okay. So this is the method that is used for calculating the torque, and apparently we ran out of time today to start the speed control of DC motor, so we have to accelerate to get the speed control in the next class. Okay, we'll stop here.